And we're live. Hello, everybody. We're doing it. Hello, everybody. We're doing it a bit different because we're live from Fort St. John today, and the connection is poor. So we got live on YouTube, and we're recording for everywhere else. So just give me a second to get set up here. It won't be long. All right, here we go. So today we are. Why is my recording paused? It won't record. Give me a second. It won't record. Recording. There. And are we recording now? Yes, we are. Okay. So, August 28th, 2024, live from Fort St. John. Hello, everybody. So, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in your comments, and we'll answer those either after the podcast or after the video. I always look at the comments, and I always make sure that I answer every one of them. So, here we go. We get started. Today, we're talking about the hydrotherapy. So, as usual, I am not a doctor. So, this is just to explore healing methods that are natural, that help you complement your routine and help you navigate stress, finding balance, and restoring your optimal health naturally. Don't diagnose any condition, nor do I prescribe any substance or perform any medical treatment, nor do I interfere with the treatment of licensed medical professional. It's recommended that you see a licensed physician, licensed healthcare for any physical, psychological ailment or condition that you may have. We're simply exploring methods that have been around for some of them for a very long time, as well as hydrotherapy. So, there we are. I need and I only have one screen, so it's a little different today. So now we are this year searching for alternative medicine that requires little cost or training that can be done by everyone, whether they are sick or healthy, young or old, right? So it's to allow you to complement something that you may already be in treatment for. I don't encourage you to drop any ongoing medical treatment, and I only presenting the basic ideas, so I'm not going to go in super long details, but at least it allows you to say, oh, I didn't know about this, and allows you to do your own research and start looking for, maybe places where you can participate in these different therapies, and today it's all about water. More and more traditional medicine recognize the benefits of alternative therapy to manage stress and pain in addition to a current treatment. So let's start on hydrotherapy. Now, the therapeutic use of water has been recorded in ancient Egypt, in Greek and Roman civilization. Especially Egyptian royalty bathed with essential oils and flour, while Roman had communal public baths for their citizens. Hippocrates, which is Greek, very very old, but he prescribed bathing in spring water for sickness, and we will explore that today because there's actual natural water springs and hot springs all over the world. So we'll go over the countries that have those, and then if you live in those countries, you can look if there's one close to you. Now, I'm a big fan of comic books. And in one of the books, there's Asterix and Abracurcix, who actually in one of their adventure, Asterix and the Chieftain's Shields, the chief suffers from liver problems, and he is sent to a detox cure, which is now Switzerland, and where the water is an important part of the cure. They drink it, they bathe in it, and they receive water massages. It's all in good fun, but there's actual truth to this story because water can play an important role in your health, not just physically, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The hydrotherapy, also called a water cure, is a branch of alternative medicine, particularly in natural therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and it involves the use of water for pain relief treatment. Hydrotherapy involves a wide range of methods and techniques, many of which use water as a medium to facilitate the therapeutic effect. So let's dive into it. The cure that Abraracourcix is going through in the Chieftain Shield is actually was re recreated or reinstated in the 19th century by Sebastian, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation, but Kneip, Kneip. He was born in 1821 and he passed away in 1897. And he was a Bavarian priest. And he developed a systematic and controlled application of hydrotherapy, which he administered to the poor, and it attracted quite a bit of attention. Very much like the chief, his treatment consisted of bathing in water, drinking cold water, going to bed and rising early, barefoot walks in wet grass, and simple meals consisting of very little meat and large quantities of whole grain cereal. So it's not obviously just the water. You get to eat food, but Sebastian was encouraging people to return to nature and to be more aware of what they were putting inside their body and insisting that water was extremely important. Now, why does that seem a little bit off for us today in 2024? Well, back then, water was often carrying a lot of bacterias and disease and things like that. It was hard to find good drinking water. So a lot of people drank wine and beer and alcohol because those were safe to drink. However, obviously had the inebriating effect. So he was trying to encourage people to return to drinking just plain water. But why is water so important? Well, first of all, we are mostly made of water, right? The percentage in our water body, depending on your age and also if you're a male or a female, your percentage of water varies between 60 to 80%. 80% is usually found in younger children, babies, and the older we get, we tend to dry up. Now, I'd like to share anecdotes from my auntie that's turning 100 in just a few days. And she keeps saying, well, if I drink too much water, I got to go pee. However, it's important to drink the water because that's how your body naturally eliminates toxins from your body. So the water gets in, it circulates through your entire body because you are made of water. And then whatever shouldn't stay in your body gets eliminated a lot through, our pee. So it's important to drink water because you need to keep cleaning your body and your body needs to stay healthy. And I had a comment recently about someone says, yeah, but I do water retention. And the reason why you're doing water retention is because your body needs the water and is not getting enough. So if you're doing water retention, you should actually be drinking more water, not less water. Your body is trying to manage itself by regulating itself. And therefore, if you're not drinking enough water, it's important for you to start doing so because your body needs it to function properly. And some people say, well, I drink 3 coffees a day. Coffee is a diuretic, so it makes you go to the bathroom. However, it's not the same as water. It affects your body differently, as opposed to water is just a cleansing agent. Think about it. If you're trying to wash the floor or you're trying to clean your bathroom or your clothes, you're not going to use coffee, right? You're using water. Why? Because in coffee, there's a lot of elements that would stain your laundry or, make it more sticky. So water is one of the basic elements that our body needs. You can survive 40 days without food, but only 3 days without water. Water is an essential part of who you are as a human being. The planet itself is made of around 71% water. Everything in this dimension, the third dimension, is linked together. The planet probably needs that much water to be able to be self-sufficient. Talk to anybody who lives in a semi-arid area or a desert area. Without water, nothing lives, right? So the planet needs all this water. Yes, there's a huge concentration in ocean, but also all the rivers and all the lakes. The cycle of water for the planet is the same that it is for us. We need the water. So, and also, health-wise, water is what you wash your bodies with, is what you do your dishes and cleans your food and you wash your hands. Now, with a few years ago, with the big pandemic, you had to wash your hands all the time. And they noticed a drastic lowering of cases of colds and other illnesses. And I never honestly thought about it. You go to the store, you pick up something, you read the label, you put it back. Well, I tend to have my hands extremely clean, but that's not the case for everybody. And so everybody touching that package is leaving something behind. And so getting into the habit of washing your hands, not excessively, but regularly, is also something that is going to favor your health. Now, Edgar Cayce, one of my favorite person to quote, because the sleeping prophet was able to connect to the other side and get messages. He was not a doctor. He had 7th grade education, but this man was able to be asked questions while he was sleeping in the afternoon and get answers that he didn't even know that information for himself. And one of the quotes that he did in a reading, and I'll cite the reading, it's the reading 1300-1, and he says, "Water is an essential part of life. Each soul is born of water and of blood. Blood is in the material, and water is the ethereal or spiritual force." Now that's very powerful. The more water you are in, close to a large body of water, bathing in water, drinking water, all of this links you to your spiritual force. Hence why it's so important to, at the very least, drink several glasses of water a day. Edgar Cayce recommends 6 to 10 glasses of water each day. That doesn't mean beer or other things, just water. And those are his words from the reading 274-2. So it's not just me. So therefore, medically, obviously, now we know that washing our hands helps kills bacteria and keep our body clean. And water is also used to in the medical field to remove dead tissue, right, and the treatment of wounds. And this is also considered hydrotherapy. It's under high pressure, and it blasts away the skin, or therapeutic irrigation, which allows you to suck out things by loosening them up with the water. So it also can be used for colon cleansing, right? People that are highly constipated are able to use the water to an injection in the lower bowels in order to facilitate elimination and clean our colon and clean our intestines. Our body needs to eliminate what it's not using. So if things are plugged, nothing gets out. And eventually, if this is a consistent problem, it can start, being reabsorbed in your body, which means you're poisoning yourself. So we need to make sure that all the channels are open and there's free elimination. And particularly cleaning the bowels this way with water is also used for traveler's diarrhea, or when there's a large infection of certain bacteria, and that's the fastest way to flush them out of the body. So that's the medical field in itself. Now, what about, I mentioned, that we can use water for mental healing. And people are like, okay, so what do? We wash our brains with water. How does that work? And the use of water is in this particular mental healing comes from the Greek word thalassa, meaning the sea. And it's the use of seawater as a form of therapy. It's the full name is thalassotherapy. And it also including the systemic use of sea products and the shore climate. Now, there's no actual scientific evidence that the thalassotherapy is effective. However, it was made very, very popular in the late 1800s. Everybody would go to the sea, right? They would travel long distance to be by the sea. Now, if you've had the chance to be by the sea, I can see why this is mental healing and is effective. It calms the mind. The sound of the waves washing onto the shore, the sunlight, shining off the water, the amazing sunset you get to see at sea. There's no proof. However, anyone going by the ocean or by the lake, which thalassotherapy is specifically for the use of seawater, but I'm personally I don't mind the ocean, but I really like being by the river or by a lake. It does the same effect. There's a calming effect on the mind that allows you to be in the moment. And maybe by clearing your mental body, clearing your stress and anxiety, you get to receive inspiration or intuition as to how to solve the issue that you got you stressed or anxious in the first place. So, sitting by a stream or sitting on the beach by the ocean or swimming in the ocean is something that heals the soul and it brings peace to the mind. So, something to give it a try. Even for people who don't particularly are great swimmers, they can benefit just by even putting their feet in the water. So you don't have to be completely immersed in the water for it to have a nice effect. If you're too far from the sea and going to the sea is not an option for you, a lot of health food store sells salts from the different seas. So you can get Dead Sea salt, you can get just straight ocean salt, you can get where's the other place? We've got Mediterranean Sea salt. So all of these different salt contain different minerals, and you can put them inside your bathtub and soak in this water for the same similar effect. So you can add to the effect by either the sound of sine waves, even though you're in your bathroom. You can put a nice poster of the view of where the sea is. There's an immersion to this ability to recreate the environment and allowing you to bring yourself to this state of peace or state of calmness. These salts are not very expensive either, so it's affordable. Now, for those of you who don't like taking baths because you're like, that's disgusting, you're in dirty water, just shower before you fill the tub and then fill the tub with clean water and you're clean, so, everything is clean. And then you add the salt to it. How much salt should you add? It depends on I guess, the size of your bathtub. But a regular size bathtub, I would put a half a cup to a cup, depending on how salty I want. And it makes your skin super soft, and it's a wonderful therapeutic effect. So, an easy way to bring home the ocean to you, right? It's also very good for emotional healing, and that's through tears. Now, we cry when we're very happy or we're crying when we're sad or distraught. But tears are the healer of the emotional body. They enhance our mood by creating and releasing some hormones. By crying, you also dull your pain. So a lot of people think that they're just crying, and a lot of people are apologizing for crying. You shouldn't have to apologize because you're crying. Crying is a normal bodily function, and it comes from the emotional body being either extremely happy or extremely sad. But it's a way to normalize this stretch and allowing you to receive a more balance. Um, the idea of crying also releases toxin and relieves stress, and the endorphins that get released when you're crying make you calmer. So it has a soothing effect and it restores your emotional balance. Now, on a more practical side, they clean your eyes, they improve your vision, they fight bacteria, but they can actually aid you sleeping. And naturally, the process of grief involves crying. So holding back the tears is actually more, it's less beneficial, I would say, than actually letting the tears flow and come out. By relieving trapped emotion, you're allowing your emotional body to restore itself to a balanced kind of level. And so, if you have tears, don't apologize for them. Just let them out. If you're one of these persons that were told you can't cry because that's a sign of weakness, you can't cry because that makes you a wimp, or you need to be able to have a safe place where you can release those tears. Um, I remember after the loss of my lovely dog Sherry, my son and I were quite distraught, and we're both adults. And we went to see a movie about the dog's purpose, in which the dog continuously died throughout the movie to be reincarnated as a new dog, and eventually finds his original owner. It's a lovely movie, but it definitely helped us process the grief that um, we were stuck with from the loss of our own dog. And so we were in the theater crying, big ugly tears, the ugly cry. But it allows us to process that grief. Uh, Now we're not shy about expressing our emotion in my family, but that's not the case when I was a child. I was raised with six boys, and like the boys, crying was not um, a warranted emotion or behavior. So you had to hold it all back, which eventually makes it very hard for me to cry. So if you're one of those like me that, for whatever reason, you find it extremely difficult to release your tears, I find that when I know my emotions, I know what's trapped inside, I will make sure that I put on a very, very sappy movie, and I'll wear my PJs and a nice big blankie, and I'll let it all out in the comfort of my own home. Those tears is the way to allow your emotions to be set free. Why is grieving so important? Because while you're trapped in the loss of aspect of your grief, you're unable to tap into all the good memories that were buried under this grief. And the only way to get through grief is literally to go through it, meaning feeling it, crying it, and letting it out. There's no. It's like being in a room and you want to get out of the room, but you don't want to use the door. There's no way out. You're inside this grief room, and the door out is to your grief, let it get it out of you. I have people looking at me going. So, um, so water is also part of, and our bodies are all linked. Your spiritual body, emotional body, mental body, physical body, they're all linked. So if you're not allowing your emotions out, eventually your emotions will fester. And once that happens, the energy of your emotional body festering creates disease in your physical body, letting you know, hey, by the way, this is still here, this is still trapped, and now, look what it's causing. If we were taught these things when we're very young, we would be so much more aware of every little things that's happening, our stress, our anxiety, our grief, or sadness, or joy. And we do ask ourselves the question, if I'm not happy, why am I not happy? And you have lots of reasons why you're not happy. And now my next question is, so what are you going to do about it? Right? Your emotions are a tool for you, but if you're not using them as a tool and you see them as an hindrance, well, then they're useless. I agree with you. However, they're not useless if we listen to them. They're there to guide us. If a situation is making you angry, is making you sad, making you distraught, making you anxious, whatever the emotion is, you need to ask yourself, okay, so how can I change this situation? How can I make things better? How can I work through this? The message I'm receiving, this isn't your happy state. And finding solution. Keep looking for solution. Yes? Okay. Now, there's another concept that works with water. It's called the Halliwick concept. It was originally developed by a fluid mechanics engineer, James Macmillan, in the late 1940s. So that's fairly recent, but still very much in use today with several clinics all over. The Halliwick School for Girls with Disabilities in London was helping them using the water, helping them teach the physically disabled to be independent in water. Now, why would that work? Well, if it's the same principle that physiotherapy uses water, you're lighter in water, right? So if you have an injury, and especially usually your hip, your legs, and it's hard for you to move because the weight of your body is too much for your legs, you can start working in water where you're lighter and start doing these movements without taxing your body physically so much as it's recuperating, and then being able to move from water to the firm ground. So he was teaching and developing a therapeutic approach to help them get their sense of balance better and also develop core stability. Now, core stability, for those of you who don't know, your core is basically your trunk. And core stability will usually come from your abs, right? I'll use terms that people are used to hearing, right? And can get an image. If your abs are not strong, you have no core stability. If you have no core stability, that's when you can't keep your balance straight, or you can't hold yourself straight. So starting working with disabled people who for a long time have been curved or been laying in bed, allowing them to experience this in water is a gentle way to start the muscles growing and exercising. Um, the hyaloic therapy has 10 steps that they're using. It's called the 10-point program. Now, it has the hyaloic therapy is very interesting. So they have the aquatic therapy and they have the 10-point program. So I'll explore the 10-point program and then I'll go into the aquatic therapy. But he believed that there was a mental adjustment to cultivate confidence and a good attitude, and also learning to breathe properly while adjusting in the water, right? Then there was a disengagement that was necessary. So being more independent in doing the activities in the water, using less and less the instructors and the physiotherapists or the aide that's in the water. The idea is that eventually you'll grow confident enough that you can do this on your own. So they were building people's independence and belief in themselves and their confidence. Then they would work on transversional rotation control, which is learning a movement from your trunk and how to turn and how to stay in the upright position, and also how to work from horizontal position to upright position. So eventually they're learning to somersault. I don't know if you've tried a somersault lately, but those are not, kids do it all the time. And you're like, oh, look at them go. But it requires quite a bit of strength to be able to follow the movement. So they were learning to do that in step 3. In step 4, they would learn the movement where it would involve the trunk flexing and also moving and stepping upstairs. If you've always been healthy, if you've always had strong legs, you don't think about this much. When I'm looking at my 100-year-old auntie going up the stairs, she's looking up the stairs, she's raising her leg, she's securing her foot, and then she's raising. There's quite a bit of work involved if your body is old and weakened by illness or injury. So doing it in water allows the people to at least practice the movement without having all the weight holding them back. Then in step 5, they would learn to do activities that involve rolling over. Now, again, if you don't have pain, you're like, well, that's easy. However, I can assure you, having survived fibromyalgia and dealing with back pain after a terrible car crash, rolling over requires either at first it requires help, but then it requires you to think, how can I do this without stressing the muscles, right? So you learn to get out of bed in a different way and lifting yourself in a different way, not just relying on your trunk, but maybe helping yourself with your arms and the position of your legs. But while doing this in water, it allows these trunk muscles to develop and gain strength and getting used to the new movements. And then in step 6, they were learning to control a combination of rotation executed um, in a single movement. So at first you're just practicing certain movement, and then you learn to tie them in all together in order to complete the movement. Like in this case, either rolling in bed or going up the stairs. Now, at this point, they're able to be in the pool and control their pool position, meaning that if they want to stay in this place and not be swayed by the currents of water. And that's how the water is used. It's not just static water. It's water that is also putting pressure. A certain current is in the water. So you have to use your muscle to stay here rather than being pushed away by the water, and also remaining straight while the water would normally push you away. And then in step 7, mental inversion is where they're learning about buoyancy. So the water always pushes you up. You don't sink like a rock, you float. However, some people think otherwise. And it's this technique, Aliwick technique, allows you to understand that you float. So you will eventually always come back to the surface. You may sink a little, but you won't sink all the way to the bottom. Now, the step 8 is balance and stillness, and that's learning to maintain a relaxed body while floating in turbulent water. And then step 9 is turbulent gliding, which means learning to control the position of the body while being moved by the instructor. And then step 10, it's simple progression and basic swimming movements. So being able to coordinate arm, legs, head, and torso in movements required by swimming. If you've seen a swimmer's body, they're full of muscle. But the water allows you to create these muscles without so much effort on your physical body. And then you have the muscles. The muscles are there. They're functioning. And you can use them outside of water. I hope this makes sense. But if you have any questions, please either look it up at the Aliwick 10-point program or the Aliwick Aquatic Therapy. It's also known as the water-specific therapy. This one is a patient-specific aquatherapy for rehabilitation of injury and disability. So this aquatic therapy is that was developed by Bad Ragaz in Switzerland, and it's in effect since 1974. Now, when I had this very bad car crash, I did aquatic therapy. It was marvelous because it allows you to also not just boost your confidence, but you have success in the water. Not maybe in the gym trying to lift your leg or do things that you can't. But in the water, you're able to see, okay, I can do this. And then eventually I'll build my muscles back enough to do this outside the water. It works. This conditioning and this setting for success. Everybody can achieve everything they want if they take the time to learn and apply it properly. But sometimes the application is very difficult because of the pain or the injury. And having some success along the way encourages you to keep pushing forward and continue in your rehabilitation, right? So the water-specific therapy does include elements of the 10-point program. And it's a task-oriented approach. So they will work on very specific building or rebuilding, in case of injuries or operations, of the muscles. And it's within the context of the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health. So it's a recognized program, and it uses known medicinal facts, just applying it to the water. So it's a very active, dynamic kind of therapy. It facilitates movement and sensory input. Now you're going to say, okay, well, I thought you said it was going to be cheap or free or things I can do on my own. The concept is simple. If you have difficulty walking, you go inside of a pool and you walk in the water to strengthen yourself. I don't know. After all the injuries I've had, running is very taxing, but I can still work my aerobic part in the pool. So I'm lighter. There's less impact on my knees and my hips, and I'm able to walk in water and speed walk, if you will, right? So, and we'll talk about that also later. Now, there's also a passive or static component to this haloic aquatic therapy. For example, it's selective activation of the muscle and stabilization of specific joints by the therapist. So you're not necessarily doing everything on your own. You can have someone assist you with the movements to get you started. Now, if you, depending on where you live, I guess, sometimes physiotherapy will be provided as a medical service. And then it's exercises that you can learn how to do from a physiotherapist, and then you go on your own and you continue applying it. So you don't have to be at the physiotherapist like every other day. They will give you a list of exercise for like the month, and then you do your exercise in the pool by yourself for a whole month. And then you go back and you reassess the progress and see if there's anything new that you can add or complicate the exercise to strengthen your muscles more. So there we are. Now, water takes many forms, and one of those forms is steam. So if we think of therapy and something that makes us feel good, relieves our pains and our stress in a form of steam, that we get a sauna. The word sauna itself is Finnish in origin, and in the Estonian language, it's son. So the saunas in Finland is an old phenomenon, and it's actually part of their culture. It's actually difficult to trace its origin, but the earliest version is believed to be 7,000 years before Christ. So over almost 10,000 years ago. This is how long they've used saunas. During the Reformation in Scandinavia, the popularity of saunas expanded to other countries because European bathhouses were being destroyed. And again, I would say that everybody's got a washroom access, everybody's got a toilet, and everybody at the very least has a shower. But if we go back a few hundred years, that was not the case. Sometimes there was a bathhouse for an entire row of street, and the rent the rent got cheaper the closer you got to the actual outhouse because the entire street used that outhouse. So those bathhouses being destroyed meant that people had no place to go to wash and clean themselves. So a sauna, through the effects of the heat and the steam, clears and opens your pores and allows you to clean your inside and also clean your skin, right? All these pores, sometimes they get plugged up. So the saunas are very effective for that. One of the reasons why the sauna culture has always flourished in Finland is because of the versatility of it. When people were moving, the first thing they did was build a sauna. Finns have used the saunas to live in, to eat, and address matters of hygiene. But most importantly, they would also give birth there because it was the most sterile environment that they could create. That's very interesting, right? Nowadays, we go in the sauna, we have our bathing suits. Some allow us to be naked with a blanket, maybe. We stay there 10 minutes, we come out. But they used it. It was part of their culture, part of their lives. And unlike many others, more densely populated places in Europe, there was wood available, which are needed, obviously, to build the saunas, but also to warm the saunas. And it's never been an issue in Finland. And another reason for its popularity is the cold climate. The saunas allows people's warmth, right? It's warm in there, at least for a short period of time. However, it's just as popular in the summer or in the winter. Now, if you go to your pool or, public centers that offer saunas, they will tell you, those are very hot. You can only stay there for a limited amount of time. Follow the directions, right? It's important that if you stay in there an hour, it's less effective than going in 10 minutes, taking a break, and going back in. The heat will affect your entire body. Remember, you're made from 60 to 80% of water. This heat boils your own water inside. So and exposure to extreme heat for a long time is not healthy. So make sure you follow the direction. I'm going to have a sip of water. So this takes me to the Nordic spas. The Nordic spas are different because they're using the use of cold and hot water and different application to improve blood circulation and also associated metabolic function. Now, you can do it by sinking yourself into a hot tub and then going into the cold water, which, is very effective in shocking the system. However, you can also apply it in small compressed bandages. So you can have on your shoulder, for example, a pack of ice, and then you can cover it with a very hot compress. So it doesn't have to be complete submerging. It's we lost touch with things. We have all these things that make money, and because they make money, they only keep the part that makes money. They don't want you to know that it works just as well, just on a small area. So you don't have to pay to go into these hot tubs and those cold pools. You can do it from home if you have a specific area you need to treat. And they also use the sweating through the sauna and then cooling through the use of pools. What else is water other than steam? It's also ice. Now, interestingly enough, who has not put ice on a swelling part of their body? Right? I think everybody is doing that. You twist your ankle, or I don't know, yes, you get a bug bite. I got bit by 9 wasps about 2 weeks ago. Definitely applied ice on those bites. But it's actually known as cryotherapy. So it involves the cold water immersion in ice baths. Now, one person that made this very popular is Keanu Reeves. When he was filming The Matrix, he was training so hard that his entire body was completely sore, and he used to immerse himself in a bath full of ice and water. Again, you don't stay in there for a very long time, but you can also just apply the ice to a specific area of your body, as long as you don't overwork your entire body, right? It's used by physical therapists, sport medicine facility, rehab clinics, and it can take the form of ice. It can take the form of gel pads. But it's the essential of it is that it's very cold, right? And you're applying it, and the result is that it improves the return of the blood flow, and also byproduct cellular breakdown in the lymphatic system. So it becomes more efficient recycling of what their body no longer needs. Oh, isn't that interesting, right? So ice itself, we know, will reduce swelling. But what happens in the body effectively is that it breaks down things and allows the circulation to happen again. And because what happens when it swells, everything gets bigger and everything gets compressed. Blood vessels and your blood vessels carry the water, the blood, the nutrients, and everything else, right? So by reducing the swelling, we're allowing the circulation to be restored. So it actually has a name, cryotherapy. All right. Now, hot hair and steam baths, which you're going to say, well, isn't it the same as a sauna? Not quite. It was promoted during the time of its height in the Victorian revival, and it's often associated with the use of the cold water, as evidence in that were found. However, not all the therapists limit their practice to this cold water. The specific use of the heat was associated to Victorian Turkish baths. And so these were introduced by David Urquhart in England when he returned from the East in the 1850s. So now it's new to Europe, but Turkish baths have been around forever, right? They made them, however, a public institution, and you could go and you could go to the tubs, but also they would encourage the practice of drinking water. It's very amazing that we have to keep being reminded how much water we're supposed to be drinking, right? But the Turkish baths were not that they were hot, they were steamy, but they weren't like a sauna. It was more of an open room. It was more of a humid environment, which I can see in Turkey where it's very semi-arid and dry, where this would be very beneficial for the people there to be in a more humid environment. Now, they the water can be used in the in different ways, right? You can immerse yourself, but there's also the application of water pressure from jets that will massage different areas of your body. And you can get a head massage, you can get foot baths, you can do spinal treatment of massage therapy with jets. Where would you get something similar to that? That is very common and very handy. Hot tubs. That's the concept of hot tubs. A hot tub will have jets, right? And now they're getting really, really fancy. But the idea is that that water being propelled with a pressure while you're soaking in water is massaging. So again, we're going back to these wasp bites that they swelled my arm terribly, and it was hard. The swelling made my forearm, totally solid. So I went into the hot tub and I put the jets directly on my arm, and this allowed to re-soften the muscle, restore circulation, and allow the antitoxins from the wasp bites to actually move along and be expelled. In Quebec, I have this, and I'm sure it's available everywhere, but that's where I saw it. You had a foot bath. Now, everybody can buy a foot bath at the pharmacy, right? They're, I don't know, 25, $30. But they were adding minerals to the water and allowing, through the foot bath, to clear the toxins out of your body through the pores of your feet. So it was very effective. The water turned disgusting and brown. And you just sat there, and your body, through the massaging of the hot water and your feet, was expelling all these what would you call it? Toxins out of your body, and filled the entire little foot bath with dark murky water. So that proves to me that you don't have to have your whole body immersed in water for it to work. So again, if you live in small apartments where you don't have bathtubs, even applying water or having a foot bath will be effective. So it's worth a try. Now we're going to go into, do I have more to say about a hot tub? Because hot tub is a recognized form of hydrotherapy that is for relaxation and pleasure. So again, I would say that in my case, it was physical and it helped the physical aspect of my body. But being in a hot tub allows you to relax and release the tension. So that would be helpful for your emotional body, your physical body, your mental body, right? I like to sit in them and pure quietness. Mine is outside. And just close my eyes and I listen to the birds. But the fact that I'm floating in water is completely different than if I was sitting on a chair in my deck. It doesn't have the same effect. And water is known to be the emotional aspect of our bodies. And so being in the water allows the water to balance you out. So there's a lot of spas, public spas and fancy spas, and all of them will have several pools, several hot tubs. There's a particular one that I enjoy when I go to Quebec, and they have sea salt hot tub, and they have different types of hot tubs like that, so that you can feel the different aspects of water in different chemical aspect, natural chemical like the salt, and one of them is essential oil. So the water mixed with the smells, like the Egyptian did. Play with it, have some fun. I don't recommend that you put any agrumes, which is orange, lemon, grapefruits, and those kind of things in the water, because those are an irritant to the skin. So before you start throwing all these kinds of different essential oils in your bathtub, make sure that you double check that to the skin, it won't create a reaction. But soft flower essential oils make a whole different experience out of it. Now, for the mineral springs, hydrotherapy is practiced in spa towns, meaning where there's mineral rich or hot water that occurs naturally. It's usually near the mountains, and in Canada, we have a wide selection of those natural hot springs. Uh, and it's hydrotherapy is actually used in combination with drug therapy and treatment of alcoholism. So the calming aspect of the water allows people to be able to reduce their needs for supplemental medicinal personal medicinal effect, right? Because we're not talking, obviously we're talking alcoholism here and drugs, right? So we're not talking your social glass of wine. We're talking about people who drink alcohol, use drugs to calm themselves or to deal with their emotions of anger, anxiety, resentment, and other things, right? Allowing the use of water included in their therapy allows them to restore this balance inside their body, so they're weaning off the drugs and alcohol becomes easier. Now, I've been to Bath in Great Britain, and I found it very, very interesting because while they were digging a foundation for a building, they discovered Roman Roman baths. And we hear the stories, right? Because there's documents that survived the civilization. And the Romans said they made it all the way to Scotland, and they made it all the way here and all the way there. And we're like, maybe they were bluffing. But after the discovery of Roman baths in England, they discovered that they not only conquered all the way there, they even established baths there. And so, unfortunately, the baths are not in use, but you can visit the baths and you can see that they had massage tables made out of rock, and then you would get splashed with water and then massage and splash with water. And then you can go into the natural hot springs that kept the baths hot. And it's quite a large establishment. And that would be what we referred to in Latin as balneum, which means a bath. So it was balneotherapy. And it's a method of treating disease by bathing, a traditional medicine technique usually practiced at spas. Since ancient times, humans have been using hot springs, public baths, and herbal medicine for their therapeutic effects. In, I'd say, the west of United States and the Western Canada, it's part of the First Nations culture to go to these hot springs, and they were known to release rheumatoid arthritis and to ease muscle pain and things like that. They would bathe in these hot waters. And nowadays, the water's been analyzed, and they're full of minerals and different other natural components that are not in our water that we put in our bathtub. So we're bathing in a very sterile water when we bathe in our home or we shower in our home. Going to these natural areas is still full of natural minerals that maybe our body is craving and is not getting through food and is able to absorb to our pores and our skin into our body. And that's where the therapeutic effect comes in. So balneotherapy may involve hot or cold water, but it's a massage through moving water in order to promote relaxation or stimulation of certain areas. Many mineral waters at spas are rich in particularly silica, sulfur, selenium, and radium. Now, obviously, it's cool to bathe in it, but it's not drinkable water, right? It's not meant to be ingested. So if you go bathe in these waters, don't bring any home to drink. It's not good. Now, hydrotherapy is so effective that it's now being applied to animals. Animal hydrotherapy, especially for canine. Now, I don't know how our cat would fare inside a pool. However, canines love it. And so it's directed at treating chronic condition, post-operative recovery, and or pre-operative or general fitness for dogs. So it allows them, again, it's the same concept as for humans, right? It allows them to be in an area where they're not so, well, pretty much weightless, right? You weigh nothing in water, and allowing them to do the movement. Sometimes they'll be in a harness, so they won't sink if they get tired or they stop swimming. But it allows them to use their muscle without straining and reprogramming the muscles to work appropriately and to under their function. And this is something that I learned that was very, very interesting. Again, big car crash, suffered pain and injuries from my cervical neck vertebra to all the way down to my coccyx, and my hips, and oh my God, it was bad. And I had a lot of scar tissue. So scar tissue is stiff. So if you're trying to make movements, the scar tissue makes it harder to make the same movement that you used to, because now it's scar tissue. And it's a very discouraging state of mind, right? You're like, I used to be able to do this, and now I can't. However, I learned that through repetitive movement of the movement you're trying to gain, slowly, right? Don't push yourself, but slowly you can eliminate the scar tissue and restore healthy tissue. I think that's what I needed to hear at that point, because that means that all this work and effort that I did allowed me to be back to being healthy and strong again. I wasn't going to always be weak, or I wasn't going to always have that limp, or I'm not going to always be unable to straighten up or lift something. So the ability to use the water to allow my body to learn the movement again and stretch this scar tissue into reinitializing muscle tissue was the key, was in the water. So it worked fabulous for me. So if you are in pain, or if your movement is restricted, or if you're overweight, and for you exercising is very difficult because the weight is pushing on your knees and is creating pain in your knees and your foot, start in the water. Now, again, remember, I'm not a doctor, so I always encourage you to be followed by a doctor or to meet with a physiotherapist and start getting exercise that are directed for you. But water is an effective way to get back into shape. Now, for those of you who are healthy, now we all heard about water aerobics, right? That it's water aerobics, aqua aerobics, aquative fitness, aquafit, all of those things is basically performing an aerobic exercise in water, usually in a big body of water. Is usually more of a swimming pool. However, I do some exercise in my hot tub, so it's applicable to any space, right? And you are working your heart, right? So you're getting aerobic exercise, which means you're building your resistance, endurance, and through all that, you're able to improve your health and your fitness level. But you got to be careful, even though it's in water. I overdid it. I was running in the water, and I'm thinking, this is great. But the next day, I felt it. I felt it really, really, really to its core. So I am more careful now when I'm exercising. I'm still okay. It's easier in the water, but I'm still in the rehabilitation. I'm still trying to build muscle. So I need to take it easy. I need to be more careful. So I do various exercises in the water in order to build up my stamina and build up my wellness, my fitness, but still without hurting my muscles again. Yes. So most water aerobic are done in group fitness class. So you have a trained professional teaching you for usually about an hour, and it involves having floaties, so they create resistance in the water. So what I recommend is you try out these classes, right? Sometimes they'll have a drop-in fee, and then you take that and you can participate on your own in water and do your own thing. It's just nice to be with a group too, because it allows you to meet people, be sociable, get you out of the house, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then, it becomes aqua zumba or water yoga or aqua jog, and they can use music to help motivate you. And so it's water has become an important part, and now there's a lot of pools available in a lot of cities. So I encourage you to check it out. Right? Nothing lost, nothing gained. If you just sit on the couch, nothing's ever going to happen. So try something new. Right? Give it a try. Another form of hydrotherapy, and I personally only saw it in Vegas. I don't know, but I'm sure it's available elsewhere. But it's very, very, Vegas is Vegas. They use it for gamblers that have been up for a very long time. So you get into this tank, and it's not even private. It's in the middle of the casino, but you lay in these tanks, clothes on, and it's like a water bed. Okay, so you're floating in this water, and then there's another water bed on top of you that lowers on you. So there's this pressure of water pushing on you from the back and the front. And then, so your head is sticking out. And then they start water jets. So it allows the water jet to massage your body, stimulate circulation, definitely wakes you up, and soothes your sore muscles. But the reason why they have this is because you don't have to get your clothes off, you don't have to get wet, you don't have to get redressed and dried again. You can do this for 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and then you get back out to gambling right away. But hey, the idea is still using pressure from jets of water to massage your body and restore circulation. So it's really neat because the jets are moving, and so they covers 360 degrees of you, gets pounded by these jets of streams of water, and then you come out extremely refreshed. So I don't gamble. I was there on business, but I tried it just to see, how effective is this, and it's magnificent. And the idea that you don't have to get wet in order to get the massage was pretty neat as well. So some people have a thing about being in public pools or public bathing area, or they don't like to be seen naked or in a bathing suit, right? So this allows you to go with yoga pants and a t-shirt and experience the water massage without having to undress or being wet. So there's a solution for everybody out there. The other thing that I've tried, and I know they're all over the world, I tried them, I believe in Vancouver, they're immersion pods. They're sensory deprivation tanks. You go inside this egg-shaped tank. It's got water, and you float in this water. And then they close the egg, and you have no light, no sound, nothing. It's complete quiet. Now, in 2024, complete quiet is hard to get. Like, where are you that there's not a TV advertising, a song, a car going by, a dog barking, right? There's always noise all the time. These pods provide this sensory deprivation and allow you to be completely alone with your own feelings and your emotions. Now, if you're claustrophobic, obviously this is not for you because it's a whole different experience to be inside this thing. And I am claustrophobic, and I was like, what if this thing gets locked and they can't open it? What if they forget about me in here? And I had all these thoughts. So I was not relaxing. I was not able to finish my 1 hour float. I think after 15 minutes, I said, you know what? This is counterproductive for me. I'm getting out. Thank you very much. But that's not for me. So the reason why I go all over all these different modalities or different tools or different experiences is because not each and every one is for everyone. However, knowing yourself, you can say, okay, immersion tank for me, not a good idea. However, the jet-powered massage in Vegas, well, that was lovely. It was, but again, it was in the open area of the casino. But I'm sure that they have spas where you can access this technology in private and just be you, right? All right. And yeah, time is flying by. So I'll get into the hot springs. hot springs all over the world. So there are actual hot springs in Africa, in Asia, in Australia, in Canada, in Costa Rica, in Europe, in Iceland, in Japan, in Latin America, in Mexico, in New Zealand, Peru, Philippines, Russia, Turkey, and United States. I've personally been to several in Canada, and I've done the ones in Peru, several in Peru in the States, and we're hoping to go to Japan next year. So I'm definitely going to be aiming to go to Japan's hot springs and saunas. Now, I mentioned before that for the First Nations, mineral springs are natural for us to seek it for ailing pain and muscle aches because of the dissolved minerals that are in the water of those springs. Some springs actually, there's hot water there, but they smell. They have gases that come out of the water, like the sulfur smell. And so that's why a lot of the hot springs I've been to are often filtered. So it's natural hot water that comes, but they filter the smell. So the water is inside actual pools. The only one I've been to that was completely natural, it was in the Yukon. And you have to walk like a mile and a half in the woods, in the wilderness, and then you get to this river. And they have built steps to make it easy to access the river so people don't injure themselves, but you're actually in a river. And that's the most natural one I've seen. The other ones are all pools. They're all regulated, and they can tell you the temperature of the water. And if the temperature is too hot, they'll put some colder water in there so that you don't burn yourself. Yeah, these are everywhere. And so, just reading my notes here. Let's talk about Mount Shasta. Now, I take trips to Mount Shasta with groups all the time. And one of our activity that we do is we attend the mineral hot springs there in Mount Shasta. It's the oldest hot springs in California. And it's located at the foothill of Mount Shasta in the Klamath National Forest. And it's a place where you can soak in individual tubs, which is very interesting because most other places, it's a pool. So you're inside a pool with a lot of different people. But Mount Shasta's mineral hot springs has individual rooms. So you need a reservation most of the time. So it's if you show up and you're one person, you might get in. But if you're a group, it's really difficult because it's on individual basis, right? So you go inside a private little bathroom. It's really tiny. It's like the size of a closet. And then you put the water in from the hot springs into your tub. You soak in it. And then you can go from there to the sauna. And then from the sauna, you can go into the very, very icy cold river. So a bit of a Nordic experience. But we do this with our group because it's a cleansing exercise. And while we're doing that, we're taking care of the emotional body. So I encourage my students to have a journal with them and see what comes to the surface. What emotion are you releasing through bathing in the mineral water and then the sauna and the cold river? All of it is obviously based on what you want to do. No one is forced to jump in the cold river. But everybody actually does attempt with their feet and up maybe to their knees. And some do soak themselves completely in cold water. But the idea is while you're doing this exercise, there's an emotional release and you're able to journal about it and get through the emotion that's been trapped through this exercise. So that's one way of using the mineral springs, not just soaking them, but using them as a tool. Canada has over 37 known hot springs. I've personally been to Banff, Ainsworth, Harrison, the Cosp, Radium Hot Springs. I love those things. We actually took a vacation. We went on the road trip, and that's what we did. We made a list of a bunch of hot springs, and we made a road trip out of it. And that's what we did for the entire 2 weeks that we were on the road, is try different hot springs. different location, different, and some of them are marvelous because they're all in nature. Oftentimes they're in the mountains. So you're sitting in these pools and you have these amazing views that you can't catch anywhere else. So I think they're a fabulous experience. So that's another way of experiencing the hot springs, at least in Canada, because they're pretty much within driving distance of each other. So you can cover quite a few in 2 weeks. um, so then, and you know, like I say, the one in Yukon was the most amazing. The fanciest one I've seen was Harrison Hot Springs, which is close to the Lower Mainland in British Columbia. But I think and the Banff one is extremely busy. So one of my favorite is Radium because it's a very large pool. There's a hot pool, cold pool. Some of them just have hot. So you can only stay in them for 10, 15 minutes and you have to get out, right? But I like having the experience of being there all day and being able to go in and out. And it's magnificent in the winter. Now, if you're from Canada, we get the snow, we get the cold, but the water stays hot. The water doesn't cool off because it's minus 37 outside. So you run into the pool and then you soak, and then you're looking at these sceneries of mountain-covered snow, and you're there totally hot and steamy inside the water. I mean, it's an experience. So if you've never had that experience, I encourage you to try it because it's fabulous. Now, the bats in Japan, it's a noteworthy mention because China and Japan have a long history of using hydrotherapy. And Japan is centered around the hot springs. And they predate the idea of Roman baths and the thermotherapy. In Japan, some locations will have the hot springs, but then you can go inside of a sauna. And they, depending on what ails you, will have medicinal herb mixed in with the sauna and allow you to be specifically treated for whatever ails you based on these natural plants, which is really fabulous and unique. And all over the world, the only place I've seen this was in Japan. So there's someone there that are trained, and they will use different herbs, and they're known to cure. People came from long distances to come to these baths to meet with these specialists, herbalists, and be treated that way. And all over Japan, there are 24 public locations that you can access the baths and the saunas and the hot mineral springs. So there we are. Then we have the springs in Peru. Peru. I'll be there soon. We're arriving November 1st with a group, and we'll be there for 23 days. And we will particularly go swimming in the pools in Aguascalientes and the stone baths of Coca Canyon. Now, there are more than that in Peru, but through our group tour, that's the ones that we'll be able to go swim at. Now, Aguascalientes is the train station stop to access Machu Picchu by train. So it's easily accessible as long as you take the train to go to Machu Picchu. And you land in Aguascalientes, because Machu Picchu is the city on top of the mountain, and at the bottom of the mountain is Aguascalientes. So they have a very, very, very large facility with several different pools. And again, nested in the mountains, absolutely beautiful place. And those are pools, though. So you got pavement, and you got the pools and different pool temperatures. And it's very large because everybody going through Machu Picchu can access those baths. So I don't find them overly crowded, but they're very nice, because now when you visit Machu Picchu, your time is limited. So when I first started going there 2 decades ago, we were able to spend the whole day in Machu Picchu and walk all over and touch the trees and, enter every single building and really do exploring of the whole village or town. But nowadays, you are limited to 5 hours visits, and you have to follow the corded passage that they made for you. So after 5 hours, there's nowhere else to go. So you still have quite a bit of time left. And as long as you don't book your plane ticket your train ticket right after or your plane ticket to go home, you can enjoy bathing at Aguascaliente. The other area where I prefer to go is the Coca Canyon. Um, by the way, if you're planning a trip to Peru, don't go from Lima to Cusco because you won't have acclimated to the altitude and you are more likely than to suffer altitude sickness. So the way I always take my groups is I take them to the jungle and then along the coast, all the way to Nazca, and then through the mountain, slowly acclimatizing to the different level, because there's less oxygen and it's not the easiest thing to breathe in a low oxygen environment when you're not used to it. So by acclimatizing yourself, you're slowly getting your body used to less oxygen, and guarantees you a better stay while you're in Cusco. So on the way there, we go through the Coca Canyon, and they have an amazing hot springs there. They are made of rock. So they're not carved in the rock, but they're made of rock, and they have different pools. Again, it's the extremely hot pool that then leaks into a different pool that then leaks to a different pool. So varying degrees of hotness. I think they have about 8 pools altogether. And you can sit between 4 to 15 people in each pools. And because it's in the Coca Canyon and not at the bottom of Machu Picchu, it's a lot less busy and a lot nicer to to be there, enjoy. And again, you're nested in the mountains, and the energy there is fabulous. So this is what I have to say about hydrotherapy and its different use, its different applications. And as you can see, you know there's the basic one: drinking water multiple cups a day. But there's the use of hot water, cold water, ice, steam, in the form of compress, of baths, of immersion, of localized application, with your clothes on, with your clothes off, in nature or inside. So complementing it with herbs, plants, aromatherapy, music, sound. The possibilities are absolutely endless. So give it a try. And you know what? I'd love to hear back from you. Leave a comment. What do you do to heal yourself or calm yourself or ease emotional pain through the use of water? What have you tried? What works for you? We always like these comments. So again, we were live from Fort St. John on YouTube, but unfortunately everything else had to be recorded because we didn't have enough Wi-Fi here to support being live everywhere. So leave your comments and I'll make sure to get back to you. But that's it for me for tonight. We have one more English podcast at the end of September, and we will look at holistic medicine in general. And why, now we've looked at specific modality, but we'll explore the topic in a more general way. Why is it so important to look at our body holistically as a whole, and rather than looking at just the symptoms? Why is it so important to look at the cause? So we'll have discussion on that. We'll be live in Drumehller. So if you want to join us, you'd come to the REDU Spiritual Wellness Center, and we'll be happy to have you there. And visitors. It's always nice when we have people watching, passing comments, asking questions live. But you can do that, obviously, from the YouTube app or the Facebook app. And then we'll do a French one in October because I'll be in Quebec for the whole month of October. So I leave you on that, and I thank you very much for watching and supporting us. Please push the subscribe button. And if you really enjoy what we're doing and you realize there's a lot of work and research that goes into these podcasts, we also have a donation button on the Square site that we have to accept payments. So feel free to give us a donation to encourage us and keep us going. We appreciate it. So have a wonderful rest of the week, and I'll see you next month for Holistic Therapy. Thank you.